start recording. Hello, and welcome to the final episode of a Mystic Chat Season 2. I know I scared you, didn't I? Like, wait, the final episode? You didn't tell me that. Just of this season. So I wanted to quickly introduce myself. And my name is Chris Allen. I am a pagan priest with the Fellowship of the Phoenix. I'm also a 5-time published author. And what else? Teacher, massage therapist, healer, all those things. I would like to introduce my co-host, Laura Gonzalez. Laura, introduce yourself.
Hello, I miss you. Hello, I'm Laura Gonzalez. Okay, let's see. I'm a minister. I'm a priestess of the goddess. I am a podcaster, producer, and conductor. I do bilingual teaching. I am a witch for hire. I read the tarot. I do private lessons on magic and tarot and healing and what else I do? I love being an educator, and I'm a knitter. I also knit. So that's me. And with further ado, I like to introduce the other co-host, dear Ruby Ruse. Welcome, Ruby.
Thank you so much. I hopefully will have video a little bit later during the program, but I am Ruby Ruse. I am a pagan YouTube content creator. You can find me on my channel on YouTube. It is called Fairy Fortunes, and I'm also trying to be a TikToker, but I'm going to be honest, I only have one video up as of now. I am also a professional fortune teller. And if you go to my website, www.fairyfortunes.com, you'll be able to find out what festivals I'll be attending and where I will be performing. In February, though, I will be performing at Capricorn, so I'm really excited about that. Without further ado, I'm going to take it back to Chris and tell you what we're doing tonight.
I'm so interested in what's happening because I was like, I hear some ruffling around in papers and things. It sounds like you're reading your tome or whatever. So today we're talking about Yule and winter traditions, solstice ceremonies, and things like that. And we did something similar last year, and we wanted to do it again because it's just a good wrap up of this season, and it's fun, and it isn't about the famous pagan authors or whatever. It's just about us hanging out, sharing some stories, and just being our strange, fun selves. Laura, so what type of magic do you like to do around the solstice? What do you like to do at home?
I like everything, and I had just done my candles. I am crazy about doing my candles, and that's why I'm always posting on, for those who are my Facebook friends, that you hear me talking about, like, it's the first of the month, don't forget to light your first of the month candle.
Okay, I have to ask you.
Yes.
What is that? I see it on Facebook all the time. I'm like, why are we doing a first of the month candle? Why? So tell me. I've been meaning to ask you, and I keep forgetting.
Well, it will be my pleasure, and to share with everybody that are of the witch persuasion and can do it yourselves. So it all started in 1975. No, I'm serious. Many years ago, my mom started doing. She was a Catholic practitioner, but it's very witchy. I've told you a million times before, in Mexico, Catholicism is nothing but witchcraft. And so at the stroke of midnight on New Year, she will always come up with something new and fun and dynamic to do for the end of the year. And that's where my love for all these end of the year traditions of folklore magic come from. And one of my favorites is when one year she bought 12 candles, so 12 taper candles, and we all lit them together at midnight. Oh, the whole family, everybody grab um, a match, and we all lit some of the candles, and it was pretty cool. And then after the 12 midnight, the 12 bells went off, then we snuffled all of the candles except for one. And that will be the candle that will remain lit for the whole month. And then the next first of the month, you will light the next candle. And then in April and February, and then in April, and then in March, and so on and so forth. So every first of the month, you light your first of the month candle. But what I have done, since I'm a practicing witch and I'm a witch for hire and I do all these things for people, is I have added to the tradition. So what I do, and this is not an infomercial, people, I'm just sharing with y'all. What I do is I, on the new moon before the new year, so the new moon before the new year, I sit with those candles and I dress them with oils for prosperity and abundance, for good luck, for good fortune, for health and wealth, for whatever needs I have. And those are my devotional candles. So when I even feel like I'm not practicing, that I'm not doing the witchy thing, that the witchy council is going to come and take my license, I know that I at least every month religiously, never better said, I light my candles, and of course I put them on my altar for Fortuna and Mercury, because those are the god and goddess that I work with, and then I sell them. And every year I sell between 20 to 30, though this year I didn't made as many for sale. I made like half, because this year was different and I was busy. But yeah, so that is the first of the month candle. And because I have so many people on Facebook that follow me, that are my friends, that have bought the candles, I always remind them, like, don't forget to light your first of the month candle. But you don't have to buy them from me. You can make your own, and you don't have to dress them either. You can just light them all up at midnight and then snuffing them all up. The idea is that they keep that midnight surge of energy, and then you light them up every first of the month. And I think it's practical and beautiful, and of course it reminds me of my mama, so that's that's the story behind the
I
first
think
I,
that
yeah,
I
I
think
know.
that
Now
I
I'm
think
excited.
that-
Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. I have a question, but go ahead. Go ahead.
So I think that's the coolest thing, because I really like the idea of taking the energy of new beginnings, of fire, of transformation, of change, of growth, and it's cool because as you go through January, it grows, and then it grows in February. So by the time it gets to Christmas and time again, and New Year's time again, you have all this power. It's just the flame. That is the coolest thing. What are you going to ask, Amy?
Well, I wanted to know a little bit more. Like, so when you light the candle, do you light it until it burns out that for the night, or do you light it every night of the month?
I usually utilize taper candles that are like 10 hours or 8 hours.
Yes.
So what I do is I will light the candle in the morning. I work from home. You all know I work from home, so I'm at home. Safety first when you work with candles, please. So what I do is, like, around 10 or 11 in the morning, I light the candle and it just burns out the whole candle, right? But sometimes, and this is a good question, Amy, because sometimes you forget, or it's late, or you're busy, or whatever, or people work, 9 to 5. So when you go home, you light it on, and then when you go to bed, you snuff it. Don't blow on it. You snuff it, and then the next day you light it back on. There is also this issue that sometimes people forget, right? They forget this. The first of the month came and went, and you forgot. So I always tell them, if you are before the 15th of the month, just light it up when you remember. And if it's already closer to the next month, just light 2 the next first of the month. it's like it's not a tragedy. But yeah, I just my only pet peeve is like don't blow on it, like snuff it. But I think it's, you can, because you already put the magic on it, whether you light them up on New Year's or you dress them or not, the energy is already on the candles. So all you have to do is kind of like continue that fire burning. And that's how I work it. And I've been working it for years. And again, not an infomercial, but when I have that many repeater customers that want those candles, everybody swears by them. And I truly believe that the energy of the new year is not fully taken advantage of by pagan and or witchy people. I think we are so like, it's not my new year, that we sleep up on a wonderful amount of energy. Yeah.
So let's talk about that. So one of the things I have to admit, I know I'm going to piss off a lot of pagans. I don't feel that Samhain is the new year. Like, yes, and you have to remember part of the reason why is because when we celebrate the Sabbats, that's a solar celebration, right? And the sun, quote unquote, dies and gets dark in December, and it's reborn or it becomes anew January. So it makes sense that January 1st is the new year because it's based on a solar cycle. The other part is that the ancient Celts, they didn't honor their solstices or equinoxes. So it makes sense for them to say, okay, we only celebrate a handful of festivals. So let's just say Samhain's a new year. And I understand the whole thing about everything starts in the dark because when you're conceived, you start in the womb, things like that. I get it. I understand the mythology. I teach the mythology. But there's something very energetic, and maybe it's the collective consciousness, all of our minds and all of our intentions all together. Like on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, there's energy, there's excitement, there's a magic there. So why not tap into it?
I agree. Actually, New Year's is one of my favorite holidays. Actually, I think it's a magical act. New Year's resolutions to me are magic. You're saying this is my intention for the year. Like it's a spell. I love it.
Yeah. And actually, New Year's is not even New Year's. Like the new year that we celebrate because of the Gregorian calendar is not even universal or planetary, because there are other people in other cultures. And I think, to mention a few top of my head, Greek New Year is different. Chinese New Year is different. Native indigenous people New Year's is different. So even the Gregorian calendar, the civics calendar, even that New Year is not New Year. But when you say, Chris, about collective consciousness, this will be the one that socially the whole planet agrees on. And because of that, and also because it has become such a secular day, it's not religious. It doesn't carry this heavily religious aspect, and yet it's full of magic. So I'm like, come on, Pegas, we're slipping up on this. I always think of it as a huge wave. That is just this huge wave of energy. Everybody is doing it at the same time. We even tune our own TVs, like Australia already, and then England, and then we are
watch other countries.
Throughout the whole year, we are seeing the clock change everywhere. Like I don't know. This is just my very like witchy. I see opportunities to create magic everywhere. So like, why wouldn't you?
Absolutely. You
Yeah,
know, go ahead, Ruby.
oh, I said, yeah, I was agreeing with Laura's. I love it. I love the magic of it.
You know, there's a few simple things that everyone can do at the new year, which I do, is at the stroke of midnight and New Year's Eve, or as soon as you get home from the parties, open up the windows in your home, let the energies of the old year out and let the energies of the new year in. I usually do it when I get home. You don't have to do it at the stroke of midnight. You can do it at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. or whatever. It's fine. Some people, if it snows or rains, will take the snow or the rain and collect it, and they'll use it in like spells of new beginnings, cleansing, purifications, or to start something brand new, or healing, of course, because there's a lot of winter goddesses that heal, you know, like for Holda and things like that. You know, I never did the whole like black eyed peas thing. It always sounded kind of weird because you know how people are like, oh yeah, eat the black eyed peas. I'm like, why? What's the magic behind it? Oh, I don't know. Just do it. Like, yeah, I don't
know what
do
that
something
is.
because
I do know what that is. I do.
Well, tell us.
And actually, that's actually a family tradition of mine. And what the black-eyed peas are for is they're for good luck for the new year. So you eat black-eyed peas for luck.
Well, I knew that, but why? Why black eyed peas and not hot dogs or bacon? Like,
Because there
think
are legumes, because there are beans, and they are in abundance. And then further you go in all Central, South America, and Mexico, there are different things that you eat for that. So people in South America will have lentils, and some other people will put like rice on the plates, and some people will eat the lentils, and some people will not touch the lentils. And it has to do because it's a legume or a bean that they grow in abundance. So they signify that abundance and good fortune. That's why it's not, say, chocolate or I don't know, vanilla or whatever. I mean, because it's a consider, you know, a grain. I know it's not a grain, or maybe other grain. I don't know, but you know, it has to be beans, some kind of bean. And go ahead, Ruby.
the tradition also carries in the baby in the king cake that's featured in, most people know it from New Orleans and Fat Tuesday and Mardi Gras, is that the beans in older times used to be, I mean, the babies used to be beans. So you would be eating the king cake and you would crunch down on the bean, and the bean was hard. So that's how you knew that you were the king of the day. So it was for that. So you had good luck if you were the one that ate the bean, that got the bean, the baby.
Yeah, and that has morphed into the, well, in Mexico, you know, we call it the rosca de reyes, which is basically the exact same thing, the king's cake, and you have the little baby Jesus. And then when you cut into it, you cut it on January 6th, because that's the day that the three kings arrive. And it's so funny because it carries all the way to February. So let's connect the dots here. You have Christmas, right? And then on January 6th, because the Holy King were late, so you eat the king cake. You cut it, you get the baby. Now you got the baby. Now you have to throw a party. And that party has to be thrown on February 2nd. Involve anybody? And you throw that party making tamales. That is when we traditionally eat tamales. We eat tamales the whole year, the same as tacos. But February 2nd, my mouth just watered. February 2nd, you do have to have tamales because that is the tradition. And it's a symbol of prosperity. And it's so funny that it's on February 2nd.
I wonder how that happened.
Candle mass.
Let's take those pagan holidays. We have a half hour left, so I wanted to kind of backtrack. I think we did it backwards and talk about you on the long night and stuff like that. Who was I just talking to? I was talking to one of my students today about how, and witchcraft. I don't mean the religion, I mean witchcraft. We don't celebrate the return of the sun until later, and the reason is because in ancient times it was just dark all the time in December, but dark and cold, especially in northern European countries. And Yule was held in January. It was held the first full moon because it was lunar based, and so they're like, okay, it's cold, January full moon, cool. Let's do Yule then, and it was a celebration because you slaughtered all your like sick cattle and old cattle and things like that. You made sure all your grain was stored in the warehouses, stuff like that. And you had an abundance of food, and so you celebrated. But there's also a darker reason, because it's believed that if you are outside after sunset on Yule on the darkest night, then the werewolves, the vampires, the monsters come and they take you away and eat you. So to make sure that didn't happen, let's have a party and let's have this huge celebration. But the witches, of course, we go out and do the great Sabbath and enjoy the party. But it was also cold. It always cracks me up how some Gardnerians were like, oh, we always celebrate our Sabbaths outside naked. I'm like, I am not gonna freeze. Not happening. But anyway,
Hard no for me.
exactly. And so, in the traditions that I was trained in, my form of traditional witchcraft, everyone's different. Everyone has their own thing. It's more of when I say darker magic, I don't necessarily mean like curses and things. I mean, you would call up the dead, you would shapeshift, you would work with the primal ancient forces of chaos. And the reason you did that was to celebrate witchcraft in the darkest time of the year, but also it's silent. Everyone's indoors, keeping warm by the fire. So we're like, great, outdoors, I can do some conjuring, I can call up some stuff, and I won't be bothered by the villagers because if they're all cold, and I'm just gonna put on a good cloak and go outside. So that's what that's how I celebrate you all. What's some other Yule celebrations? Laura, what do you think?
I really like, well, I'm going to share something, but first I'm going to preface it. Remember that I come from Mexico. Even though it's North America, it's not as cold as Chicago, right? So yes, it's cold. No, it's not that cold. So we don't have, at least not in Mexico City where I grew up, we don't have all this mythology of the winter and the scary winter figures and the Krampus and the Mary Lwyd and the Befana and all this like super scary mythology, that all these pieces of mythology scare you off winter. They're they're cautionary tales, so people don't go out in the winter and die, right? So that's where all this mythology come from, like, hey, nature is gonna eat you, so stay inside. So we don't have none of that. And I grew up, of course, Catholic, which again in Mexico is witchy. And it's Christmas, is the birth of the child, is the birth of the child, and it's all about the birth. But for us, it's all about the mother. Like the mother takes on more of a central feature than the child. Yeah, the baby's born, oh whoop-de-doo, you know, the baby's born, but it's more about the mother. It's more about the these people that are on the outside, on the cold, that they are going on this traveling throughout a place. They're experiencing homelessness. They don't know where to go. And this is this beautiful tradition in Mexico that we call Posadas. And it is a group of people. This is beautiful. You can Google it. Please Google it because it's beautiful. So you have the indoor people and the outdoor people. And the outdoor people carry a tray with the figurines of the Holy Family, right? And the people inside the house, you know, they're inside and it's nice and warm. And then the outside people start knocking on the door, and this is all like a play. So they start knocking and they're like, oh, please, in the name of heaven, open up. We're cold. This is the Queen of Heaven. She's going to give birth to the child, blah, blah, blah. Mind you that the day of the Virgin of Guadalupe just happened on December 12th. So we just celebrated the Great Mother. And then on the 16th is the beginning of this, it's called Posada, you know, which is basically shelter, people asking for shelter. So they knock on your door and they come on, let us in, please. This is the Mother of the Heavens, blah, blah, blah. And the people inside the door is like, no, this is not a hostel. This is not, we're not charity. Get the heck out of here. We're not going to open. And again, it's all part of the play and the tradition. So it goes back and forth, back and forth. It's a call and response until you convince them to open the door. So they open the door, right? So we all get into the house. And then we put the nativity scene under the tree, and then we party. And then we party because we're Mexican and that's what we do. And we party and we break piñatas and we cannot do anything quiet. And it turns out into a huge party. So we party every day from basically December 12th, which is the Tonantzin Guadalupe Day, the Virgin Mary, December 12th, then the 16th to the 24th. The 25th, we're usually on a coma. So it's not like here in the United States that everybody celebrates on the 25th. We are trying to survive because we had just got stupid drunk the night before, open gifts and the whole thing. And then we kind of rest. And this is like weird limbo time because we just don't exist between the 25th and the 31st. And then the 31st, we party again. And we have all these wonderful, crazy traditions. And that don't end because then the 6th of January, we have the Holy King. And then we have February. It is a whole thing. So me, Laura, how do I translate that into now a pagan? I don't have posadas, so I cannot do that. But I am more, you know, I'm a goddess priestess. So I'm really, really, really into the birth and the nativity. And I kind of like you, Chris, you know, I'm in Chicago. This is colder than I ever felt in my life. So I'm usually, sequestered at home. Thank you very much when it is nice and hot. And I am thinking on the return of the child. And whether you celebrate the son or the son, I think about the birth and the mother and the returning. So those are the reflections that I personally do. Of course, I like to feast with family and thinking about that abundance and prosperity and good fortune that is coming for the next year. And it's really, really sad because nobody celebrates on the 24th. Everybody celebrates on the 25th. Okay, so I'm going to go to your house on the 24th and I'm going to get drunk with you, Chris, because...
So get this. So in my family, a lot of Europeans celebrate their gifts and party on the 24th. And in my family, like the holy day was the 25th. Let's see, on the 24th, all of our aunts and uncles and cousins and friends and people down the street. So we'll have like 60 people. Not at my house, at my family's house. We'll have like 60 people there. And it begins around 4 and it ends around 3 or 4 in the morning. I mean, yeah, people come and go. But then the 25th is a little more intimate. It's for your immediate family. And part of it is if you're tired because you were cooking the last 3 days and you were hosting and drinking and presents and screaming children, and it lasts all night long. And so on the 25th, I'm tired. I'm not doing any of that. Some people go to church, some people will reflect. So yeah, the 24th is actually more special to me than the 25th. I love the 24th. The 24th is also a little closer to Yule and it's a little bit more fun. In my family, like we talked about the birth of Jesus, but we didn't really pay much attention to it. It's like, hey, party, Santa, Yule tree, great, So we eat stuff like that, Ruby, do you have any personal Yule traditions that you do?
Can you hear me?
I can. It sounds great, actually.
Okay. Well, my family was never really big on celebrating any kind of solstice related holiday. They were very anti-Christian. I'm sorry, let me try that again. They were very anti-Christmas is what they were. And so, when I was little, though, I was very enamored of the Christmas holiday. And so I really tried to get them involved in the Christmas holiday, but it didn't really work that well. So sadly, I don't really have a lot of Christmas traditions of my own or from heritage or anything like that. That's probably why I got swept up in the conversation about New Year's Eve, because that's really where I focused my energy when I was growing up. And then that's kind of where I focused my energy with my own nuclear family now. So.
And I think for a lot of people whom are either nowhere to embracing witchcraft and or paganism and or the goddess tradition and or anything of whatever you self-identify as, if you watch this show, it is very difficult to live in a vacuum. It is very difficult to say, I only celebrate Yule and I do it on the solstice night and that's it. We have families, we have friends, we have coworkers, we have all these social gatherings that happen. In the United States, they are more about Santa Claus than they are actually about the nativity. Not everybody, but you know what I'm saying. And I think a lot of people get worried or concerned that they're gonna lose their witchy card if they call it Christmas, or if they celebrate. Like I, for one, I have a grandson, and my grandson is being raised Catholic, and throughout that Catholicism, I can, weave in the Mexican witchy ways, and he's learning about the solstice and all of that. So it is more, and I love what Ruby said, is more about making your own traditions too, like move it out of the capitalism, which is the cancer of our times, and make it more about, truly about celebrating family. And just to give you all a thought very, very quickly, I'm going to go one holiday before. I'm going to talk about Thanksgiving real quick, because like we, the indigenous people, we the native people, like a lot of people, of course, in Native America, like don't celebrate Thanksgiving, right? Because it was a genocide that happened against the Native American people. However, as a Mexican immigrant, whatever that is one of the first holidays that we learn to celebrate in the United States. So it has this very immigrant welcoming flavor to it. So when people say to us, I mean, there is a wonderful book by, God, I can't remember his name now, but there is a book with this Mexican-American newscaster that he wrote, and he called it Sangivis because that's what people cannot pronounce Thanksgiving, so he called it Sangivis. And the Sangivis, that's what it is for us. It's like a holiday for immigrants because it's the first one that you learn wants to come to the United States, and it helps integrate you into the culture. So for us Mexican immigrants, that is like the first holiday that we have made our own. And we eat tamales and pozole and atole and all the Mexican goodies on Thanksgiving. So it's not Thanksgiving, it's Thanksgiving. So back to Yule, it's about making it your own. And you're not hurting anybody by celebrating and expressing your spirituality in whichever way that works for you.
I think that is a very important thing because what I used to do, because all my family's in Houston, I didn't always go home for the holidays. Partly it's because, just like I said, if you go home, it's crazy, screaming, drinking, blah. I can't spend any time with the family, you know? So I would go in January to like sit and visit, and we'd have a barbecue and, you know, Southerners, you know, stuff like that. And so what I would do for myself, I would go to holiday parties because, you know, the gays always have a holiday party. And it was never like Jesus, it was always like holiday, you know, and then I would do a Yule ceremony and stuff like that. But now, you know, I'm with my partner Dan, and he's Italian, American, first generation, so his parents are from Italy. Christmas is not a day. It's very akin to your traditions with Laura, that it lasts a week, and good Lord, it's exhausting, and it's almost like, man, I don't want to do this. It's too hard. And so my house over here in my living room, Dan, he spends so much cash on these expensive ornate ornaments, and he loves them. Like he looks at his tree, and I'm not allowed to touch it. He looks at his tree and he's just like, I love my tree so much. I'm just like, you know, that gives him happiness, and I don't see a problem with that. So we celebrate both Yule and Christmas, and I think that's fine because, you know, at the end of the day, you know, one of the things that the Trump administration has taught me is celebrate life, celebrate joy, celebrate peace, celebrate just everything. And to be honest, you're holding up a thing here. Here, say something.
Your idea, please.
But anyway, I'm actually fine. Last Christmas, I actually attended a Catholic service, and I had forgotten, because I was baptized Catholic, I had forgotten how quick it is. It was like 30 minutes and one and done. When I was a kid, my father changed us to Presbyterian. It was like a 2-hour service, but it was pretty because you had like a choir and a procession and decorations. It was a big deal, and you had like they did a play. It was a 2-hour event. Whereas the Catholic mass I went to, it was like, okay, Christmas, thank you, goodbye. It was like, I like those, just one and done, you know.
So what I was holding is this photo that we took at the Christmas Around the World thing in the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago. I'm not sponsored by them, but you can send me money if you want. And I love that love and hate. I love that they feature every country in the world. There is a tiny, tiny, tiny box about solstice. If you blink, you're gonna miss it. So make sure you don't blink. I like to call, as a pagan, I like to call it solstice. I don't call it Yule. That's just my personal preference. Same with Lita. I rather call it summer solstice. And I like that they try to be inclusive. They really try to bring all these ideas about how it all happened around the world. What I didn't like is that some of these trees, if you don't read the explanation on the bottom, it increases the ignorance of the people in the United States. And we don't need that. We have enough of that. So on the explanation, it reads, like, in such and such country, they don't celebrate Christmas per se, but they have a light celebration of coming off the winter, blah, blah. And they don't decorate a tree, and they don't do Christmas. But we're going to put the symbols of this community or this country in this tree. So I understand where they're coming from. They want to make it inclusive. Thank you. But if those folks from those countries don't have a Christmas celebration, why do you put ornaments on a tree? Because how many people do you know that go to a museum and actually read everything that is on the thing? I know I'm one of the weirdos that does that, and not everybody does that. So, one of the things that discussions panels like this one opens up is that, there are traditions that we make, and there are traditions that they were never made, they never existed. And that in the United States, we have this tradition of make it fit. It has to fit. No, it does not have to fit, So I invite you all to go if you haven't. It's fun, it's colorful, and it's beautiful, and it's something to do in this winter time. And they, of course, are doing with all this COVID precautions and whatnot. But it's fun. It's just something to do, something fun to do, and it's not freezing. It's actually nice and hot because it's inside the museum. And another tradition that I have just started this year, and I plan to keep for the whole year. I'm also not sponsored by the Modern Arboretum, but if y'all want to send me money, I'm also willing to receive it. The illumination thing on the Modern Arboretum, I love that it has not one religious aspect into it, not a one. It's all about winter. It's all about the light. It's all about the trees and nature. So if you're of the pagan persuasion, please go to Modern Arboretum. It's really, really fun. And they're going to extend it to January 8th because probably they heard about the Three Kings or something. But yeah, it's going to be fun. If you go there, it's really beautiful. And I think those are also traditions that are not necessarily pagan, but they're not necessarily religious. They're secular enough, and they're related to the season enough that you can bring the family and celebrate without having to make it about a religion.
Yeah.
Did we want to open up the discussion and hear from some people in the audience?
Well, we certainly can. Let me see. I can unmute people. Let me see. Hold on.
Now, remember, this is recorded, and when you speak, your image will be on the video.
Absolutely.
You're all welcome to do it, but just remember that it's going to be publicized on YouTube.
All right. Does anyone?
Although sometimes we do like an after show where we end the video and then open up for discussion after. Up to you. We've been gone for a little bit of time, so we're kind of off of our practices there.
We can. Does anyone have anything they want to share or like express or even ask us? You can ask us questions too right now if you want. If you don't, I'll just keep talking. So one of my things about this time of the year, I'd like to do a few solitary things for both Yule and New Year's because part of it is work is crazy, and then we have holiday, and then ritual, and blah blah blah, and in the dark time of a year, especially in colder places, you went in and you didn't come out to spring. So there's a lot of traditional practices are very solitary or family oriented. And one of the things I like to do is like to, if you have a fireplace or a candle or a cauldron fire or something, go into a dark place, not emotionally, but go into a dark room. Go into a dark room and disconnect from everything. Disconnect from the day to day, disconnect from stress, disconnect from people, and disconnect from the basics of self, meaning disconnect from your everyday thoughts, to disconnect from how you're feeling that day. And then contemplate the flame. Contemplate what the flame means. And here's the thing, it can have a whole lot of meaning or not. One of the things about contemplation is that whatever comes. If you see a spirit, great. If it just calms you down, great. If it's just a fire and that's all you see, great. But you're just contemplating the flame in the darkness, and it's an interesting meditation. So I find that they got the most powerful acts of spellcraft, or the most simplistic. You don't have to like call the four corners and call the goddess and call the earth and call the, you can, and I enjoy those things, but sometimes you're just going to be very simple and be quiet, reflect on the flame, and see what comes. And you may be surprised about the insights that you get. And how I even would come up with stuff like that is that I would be doing a ritual and I'd get bored and I'd start doing stuff like that by myself in ritual. I would do that because there was a time that in Chicago we had about 10 different big groups, and being a minister, you're kind of expected to attend every single one. So after about the 10th ritual, my brain would turn into liquid, and so I'd be like, oh, look, the flame. I'm gonna reflect on that flame, just see what happens. And it was profound. It was profound. So, were there any questions or any comments before we wrap up? Anything at all?
Your solitary practice did make me think of one thing
Yeah.
that I do that's kind of solitary. I think that this time of year during the solstice is a great time to do like dream work, because
Yeah.
a lot of us have time off. And that's actually a practice that I learned from another one of my teachers. Her name was Karen Jackson. And she always advocated that dream work was it was a wonderful time around Yule to do that, because there was time and opportunity to do it. And your contemplation made me think of it and remember it, because that's another act of contemplation for me.
And now that you mentioned it, I've been having the weirdest dreams lately. Like very vivid, very long, very like the story ends and then I wake up and then it starts again. Like, ooh, so weird. I'm gonna start journaling my dreams.
And during this time of year, because it is the longest night too, we're sometimes in the olden days you would have been sleeping longer.
Yeah.
So dream work makes sense during this time.
Totally.
I've been having strange dreams too, and I think that part of it is like here in Chicago, it gets dark at 3:30, and the sun doesn't come up to 7:30 a.m. And I'm just like, I'm not tired. I slept 7, 8 hours. So I'm like, I'm so exhausted. It's only 3 o'clock. And that's part of it. It's the whole going we get thin and dreams and stuff like that. All right. On that note, I would like to wrap it up. Say goodbye. Laura, do you have any final words to
Yes.
say?
Whether you celebrate the sun or the sun or Santa Claus, have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful time with your friends, with your family that you call friends, with your friends that you call family, on your own. You do you, boo. Have a great, great time. And may you be blessed. And we'll see you next year.
Awesome. Ruby, any final words?
Just hoping that everybody is happy and healthy and well. May have a wonderful holiday, whichever one you choose to celebrate, and blessings for any of those that choose not to celebrate anything at all. Happy holidays.
And I would too like to wish everyone happy holidays, happy Yule, happy Christmas, happy first of the month. Don't forget to light the first of the month candles. And for season 2, that's a wrap. Thank you so much, everyone. We will be back for season 3 soon, probably January. I think January. Yep. And guess what it seems like. And we shall see you guys soon. So thank you so much.